Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and this video is starting off slightly differently. And if you've seen some of the shorts, you'll know how we got here. But we are here. We are at Le Mans Classic. Now, this is probably not the car you're expecting to see. So we're not going to start this video at Le Mans Classic. We're going to start it back at the workshop, and I'm going to tell you why we are here in the trusty, reliable Nancy and not Sybil, the Morris Minor convertible. I wish I could tell you this is actually where it all began, but it actually began on a drive on the way to work because we'd all been sharing the car and I'd noticed it had been making a weird noise. So I said to Paul, can I just swap with you for a day? I'll take the Gazelle, you take the Minor, and we'll see what's really going on. Comes into work, grim-faced, and says, you need a new gearbox. So I was really pleased about all of that. Now, if you're wondering what the full tech spec is behind what happened, it's going to be in a future issue of Practical Classics. I'm not going to give all the game away in this video, surely. But anyway, coming back to what happened in the workshop, everybody's mood was still really good here. Now, if you don't know this already, I do actually work at a classic restoration business called ADO Restoration in Halifax in England. And we do all sorts of classic cars, not just British, which is why you can spot that X19 in the background. Anyway, I love classic cars, and do not the previous owner of this car loved, as well as loving classic cars, they loved silicone because they use so much all over the engine, the gearbox, and pretty much any area where they could have put a bolt. Yeah, that's right, there were bolts missing. Now, I don't think it was the previous owner that did it. I worked out from receipts where things had been done, and I thought, I think I know roughly who it was, or certainly when they owned it. You can even see me pulling it off here. It was coming off in great chunks. Like, you know, the way that you might break off hunks of bread? I was breaking off hunks of silicone off this engine and off the gearbox, and that really put the job back. Now, we do have a clean tank at work. I'm very privileged. So I was able to get some of the gunk off the car doing it through this way. But look, even with all these various tools and genius bits and pieces, it still put the job back hours. Because if you're going to do a job right, you do it properly. We're not going to do it half-heartedly, because guess what happens if you do things half-heartedly? You end up on hard shoulders, and I know this through lived experience. So anyway, Ed and Paul, pictured, were absolutely marvellous because they gave up several evenings to try and help do it. And at this point in the video, do you know what time it is? It's nearly 11 o'clock at night and we're still not done the night before we have to go because everything has gone wrong. We've run out of time and I've been a bit of an idiot because I haven't planned the time properly. So do you know how this ended? It ended with us finding a broken bit at 1 AM, me crying, Paul saying, do you want me to try and make a bit? And I said, no, I'm just going to get in Nancy because I can't bear this anymore. I can't bear the will I, won't I make it. And I just got into Nancy and I drove all the way down to Coventry on a few hours of snatched sleep, and I threw the keys at my best friend Joe and said, please, just drive so I can have a sleep, which is why there's barely any drive footage here, because I'm asleep, because I just didn't have anything left in me whatsoever. Anyway, massive thank you here to Motorsport Travel Destinations, who organised all our travel and all our accommodation, because I rang them and I said, this all gone wrong. And this lovely girl called Emily, or should I say lady, Emily, said to me, oh, don't worry about it, I'll sort it. And she took all the stress out of it for me and sorted it so that we could be on a different crossing, whereby we had to clean the car because you know what a daily driver looks like, looks fusty and dusty. So poor old Nancy has been looking a bit, you know, dusty and old. And anyway, cleaned her all up on the Channel Tunnel, and then we cracked on through France. Again, not much footage here because I'm asleep, because I was absolutely knackered. Although we did stop at a supermarket on our way to get some crisps, but we needn't have bothered because when we got to the Motorsport Travel Destination campsite, which by the way is located within the track, they actually had everything we needed. Because what I didn't realise, because I'm terrible at doing any pre-reading, is they did actually have an on-site canteen, which I'll show you in a minute. But this was our accommodation, and these were absolutely wonderful because, as you see later on, the weather turns dramatically, and if it hadn't been for these little pods, I don't know what I would have done. I think I would have lost my mind, because these meant that I just had a bit of sanctuary. And you also got a swanky dressing gown, which did make me smile because it meant that popping off to the showers, I didn't need to wear my giant cat hoodie. Anyway, coming back to this canteen, you had outdoor seating and indoor seating, and the food was really good, and there was a little chill area. But anyway, we didn't actually spend that much time here because we were here for a purpose. We were here for Le Mans Classic. Now, if you're walking up and you're thinking, oh, the walk's going to be really tedious, I promise you it's not, because you get to see everybody else who's arriving. And I kept stopping and filming everybody and getting really excited. And one of the things that you notice when you're in the queue of people that are all marching down and excited and everyone's buzzing is that there are so many English cars here. Although look, this is an English car which wasn't exactly English. It's the only Morris Minor I spotted, so I had to get the footage. Anyway, you get through security and you get to go and have a look at all the cars. Do you know how many cars are on display? Well, if you missed my shorts where I updated you every day on our trip, there were 9,000 cars on display at Le Mans Classic this year. 9,000! And I tell you later on that to get in this particular year, and I'm not talking about adding paddock passes or anything else, just simple entry into the event. And bear in mind, there's enough to look at without going into the paddocks. It was less than £150 for 4 days, which I think was jolly good going. So that got you in Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And bear in mind, that covers you to go and watch racing. It covers you to see all the car displays. It covers you for all the nighttime entertainment. I mean, goodness me, a gig ticket the other day to go and see Paul Heaton from Beautiful South and Billy Bragg would have cost nearly £50 for one person. So when you think about the fact that you've got all the entertainment in the evening thrown in for free as well, and it's on every single night, well, I don't think you could complain. This for me was the absolute top bargain event. And you might say to me, well, Steph, you need all the crossings and the fuel and all the rest of it. Yeah, well, fill the car up with people and get everybody across. It really wasn't that expensive at all. We had a look at the costs for the channel tunnel crossings, and the one that we did there and back was only roughly about £200. So it didn't add that much to the ticket if you thought they added £100 each. Now, you might be wondering why there is no noise. Well, the thing is one of the foibles of filming at this is that there is music absolutely everywhere you turn, and it is, look, it does lift your spirits, but it does make filming somewhat difficult because it means that I can't let you listen to the noise. So what I've actually done is I've gone through my 700 clips and worked out where you can have a little listen and where you maybe can't. And I've tried to intersperse clips throughout this where I'll just go silent and let you listen to the track, because I've somehow found a little bit of a pocket of somewhere where you can have a little listen. So without further ado, I'll take you over to that first clip where you can have a listen. One of my favourite bits about Le Mans Classic, if it isn't already apparent to you, is that you can pretty much get up close to anything and look at anything properly. So many shows and things that I go to are behind barriers or they're roped off, and I do understand to some extent why people do all of that, but here the ropes, the barriers and the bits that you can't get near are very few and far between. This is one of the areas really that had a very small barrier, but you could actually come up behind it and walk around the front. So I think they were just almost traffic managing. I have no idea what was going on here because the information boards just had the name of the company and strapline. However, I did sort of work out what was going on here. Do I know what these vehicles are? Absolutely not. And this is one of my biggest regrets from the event. And it's one of my only criticisms, is that there were a lot of cars here or vehicles here which were one-offs, or they were really special things that really, I would say 99% of attendees had never seen with their own eyes before. However, there were no information boards and nothing to tell you what the heck was going on. I mean, what is going on with these two? This is amazing. I want to know how it was done. I wanted to know all about the engineering behind this. These two fives being sandwiched together like two ends of the bread. And I wanted to know how they'd done it and who had done it and what they'd had to do to make that possible. And yet there was nothing. And so that's probably one of my only criticisms, is that I would love to see more information, because I really wanted to talk to you about that. And if you do know what the story behind that is, can you drop it in my comment section below, please? Because it was like one of my big bugbears all weekend. However, you probably can see all the Tour de France branding across all of these vehicles. Now I'll tell you what was going on. So, during the Tour de France, and it's not really something I watch because, look, in case you hadn't already gathered, I'm more of an indoor animal unless it's a car boot sale, a car show, or something to do with classics. I don't really do sports and various bits and pieces because I was hopeless at school and it just put me off for life. And really, I've never really got into Tour de France. I used to ride a bike and then I fell off it one day, and after that my biking days were over. So I'm more of a four-wheel kind of girl. So I've never actually seen these moving in the Tour de France, but apparently they lead the procession, which is absolutely amazing. And you know what? I could not believe the fact that you could get so close and see these and look at them, and they had all the windows open so you could get a camera in. I was too short to see, but if you'd been a bit taller you could have looked over the glass yourself and seen inside. And I just thought that was such a special treat. And that's, again, just something they do so well here. And you know what, is that I think that this is a soapbox moment, but I do think that we view people with suspicion and we think the worst of people. And actually, when you trusted in people's good nature not to destroy anything here, it didn't get destroyed. Is that because we're abroad? Is that because you're just giving people that level of trust and people here are a lot more sensible? I don't know. But one thing I will say is that there were 238,000 attendees to Le Mans Classic this year, okay, across all the days. And I have never in my life felt so safe at a large event. I have never been at such a large event and just put my bag down and not worried about it. But at no point did I worry that my purse was going to be taken. At no point did I worry about just popping my bag to one side whilst I danced on a dance floor. And that for me is absolutely priceless, because is there anything worse than when you go into a major city or you go to a big event, like you go to some of these music festivals, and all you do is worry about your bag the entire time, or worry about your mobile phone, or worry about your valuables. I never felt like that here at all. So if you're one of those people, a little bit like me to some extent, that feel apprehensive about going to a large event because something might happen or security might be a little bit lax, please don't worry about that here. It felt so safe. It felt family friendly. It's to some extent disability friendly. I wouldn't say it's 100%, but I would say that if you were somebody in a wheelchair or on a mobility scooter, I would say you could probably get around a good 95 to 98% of this. I wouldn't say it's 100%. However, I still think that you would have an absolutely smashing time if you came. I do try and include a bit about mobility in these videos because it's one of the biggest questions that I used to get asked. And then I thought, hold on, just because I'm not in a wheelchair doesn't mean somebody watching isn't, and they're not going to worry about it. And there are lots of places that you can park as well, because I was talking to James Walsh from Practical Classics that I bump into on the first day, and then did I see him the second day? I don't think we ever saw each other again because it is just so big. And he and his friends had been talking to people about parking, and there had been disabled parking available. So if that sort of thing is holding you back, please know there's lots of information online, there's lots of facilities, and you can get yourself round. Now, the other thing that I don't show you, but there is in plentiful supply, are food and drink outlets. Now, the one thing I will say is that if, like me, you are a vegetarian, I do moan about this later on, is that, look, there is really nothing that much here unless you're quite happy with crepes, or going to one of the really overpriced places, or just eating chips all weekend. So my solution to you is to go to a supermarket, stock up, bring a picnic because you are allowed, and feast on your picnic throughout the weekend. It's a small thing to put up with. Now you might be wondering what on earth is going on here. Well, remember I said to you that areas just felt very accessible anywhere you went. You know what else was going on? There were no barriers. So when they were moving cars, they just relied on people's common sense to move out the way. And I was standing up on a bridge and I was watching this happen, and I thought, I've got to film it and show you how it works. Because isn't it incredible how, when trusted, people will just move? And so I wanted to show you this because I just thought it was fantastic. And actually, it's a real heads up to some of the people in the UK that if you do believe in people and believe in their goodwill and common sense, they will move. This was one of my greatest joys because I felt like it really encapsulated that gung-ho spirit of the early races. Nowadays, so many things are so sanitised and roped off, and everybody has to stand behind a barrier, that maybe some of that early magic is gone. It still felt like it was very much here. Now, something else that I want to talk to you about is that I really like the fact that it felt very down to earth. Now, you go to a lot of events and you're going to know what I'm talking about, in that there almost feels like a class system with the classics, and it didn't feel like that here at all. I saw Aston Martins parked next to MGBs, parked next to clapped out Peugeot 205s. There was absolutely everything, and every car you could imagine in between. This Simca, I didn't manage to get any information in English on it, but goodness me, isn't it fantastic? And I had to show you it because it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And that is something I want to point out actually, is that when you come to Le Mans Classic, you won't just see the cars that you've seen before, you'll see cars that you've never seen before. And I love that. I love the variety and the spirit. And by the way, if you're wondering why we're looking around all the cars and maybe not watching the racing, Friday is qualifying. So I wanted to capture, because I knew the weather was going to turn on the Sunday, wanted to capture as many car displays as I could. I was told Friday is quite quiet, and I thought, is it? But actually it's a little bit quieter, but not enormously. But I used this as a bit of an opportunity to get round as many car displays as possible, because a lot of the car displays do change throughout the weekend, where they're parked almost like in these parking areas, so you'll see different stuff every day. But your mainstays, which you'll see later on, like your retro camping areas, they don't really change. So make sure that if you know that your weather's going to be good or it's going to be bad, that you try and get round, because you might miss a little diamond like that Mitsubishi Colt. But what I wanted to try and give to you was the spirit that absolutely everything was here. There were vehicles from all over Europe and some from America as well. I mean, how could I miss this Le Mans? I mean, what a perfect car to bring. I'd never seen a Pontiac Le Mans in the flesh before, and to see it at Le Mans felt really, really special. And I thought, what if you've never seen one either? So I did a quick pan round and I thought I'd show you it. But look, there are 9,000 cars to get round, which, by the way, I'm not going to get round all of them. But hopefully, again, this just gives you some essence of what's here. Every corner that I went round, I just can't even begin to tell you. It was amazing, because you just walk into be like, wow, I've never seen one of those before. And you had original buses as well, which had been used to transport vehicles. I mean, you really can't ask for anything more. Now, I'm more of a traditional classic girl, but this display of Citroën SMs blew me away. Now, I'm usually much more of like a 40s, 50s, early 60s, and I saw these and I just thought I had to film them. If for nobody else, for Richard Kitchen from Up and Down Vids, because apparently he owns an SM. Not that I've ever seen it in the metal, but apparently he does. And I just thought, where else are you going to see this many SMs? I'd never seen this many in my life. I was blown away. Now, these displays were all out. They also had, and someone's going to pull me up on how I pronounce it. Is it Panhard? Panhard? Panhard, French brand. They had some of these out as well. Never seen them before in my life, and I actually had to ask a French person, Monsieur Max, on Instagram, what was going on with all of these, because I had never seen any of these before, and I was blown away. A little bit like I was blown away by this band, that if you stick around long enough in the video, you'll get to see them perform, and blimey were they good. I really, really enjoyed them. And that's one of the great things about this. And by the way, I would love to let you listen to them now, but I can't, because there's another set of music playing. And again, this is one of the things, is that it feels like a giant party. Now, I love Goodwood Revival. Goodwood Revival is my absolute Christmas every single year. I look forward to nothing like I look forward to Revival. But this really did take the biscuit in terms of being one of those events that felt like a giant party. I thought Goodwood had it in the bag, but this gave it a good run for its money. Now, wherever you go, there are different dance floors. Now, the 60s dance floor was probably one of my favourites, because it had DJs from England and from France spinning original vinyl, and oh, it was amazing. Almost as amazing as the fact that you could just come down and get up close and personal and have a proper look at the race cars that were out on the track that you'd seen doing qualifying. And again, things would just kind of peel past you and you'd think, wow, I have never experienced anything like this before. But of course, it was time to head back out to the supermarket to go and get something to eat. We were out until, well, into the well early hours. So day 2 started a little bit lazily with some car spotting. Plus it was blisteringly hot, as you can probably see from the glare on this bit of footage. Now, I did film something as a little treat for some of you bus people, is the selection of buses. But of course, this is what we're all here for. It is, of course, the racing. And look, you've got the Le Mans start as well. We filmed this from the press office because I had to show you this. I thought it was blooming fantastic. I've only ever seen it on telly, and I realise the view isn't that great, but look, this is exactly what we could see. Now, how much I would love to not have this section on silent. However, they also have music booming out at the same time as the cars. And I would love to see that dialed down so that whilst the audience is really hyped by the music, do you not think they're already hyped by the cars? I mean, look at them. 2 of them nearly smashed into each other as they left. The mania, the craziness, the fun, the thrill is all there from the minute that you see those drivers racing across the track. And it is so much better, by the way, watching it in real life than it is on telly. But what else is going on? Well, I managed to get into the paddocks too. So let's go and have a look around there. Now look, if there's one thing on this channel that I think we do well, it's transparency. So this is an area called the Paddock. Now, if you want to get into this, you do have to pay extra, and you can get this bolted on to any ticket package, I believe. Now, the one thing I will say is that I think it's worthwhile doing it, because look, you're traveling all this way, you're already spending a bit of cash. Why not spend a little bit more and get to see absolutely everything? Because otherwise you will get to here and you'll think, oh, actually, I really wish that I had this pass. Now, I should say that my entry pass didn't have this on, and Richard Dredge from Classic Retro and Modern actually got me into the press office, explained what I was doing, explained that I was filming a video to show you all at home, to show you how fantastic Le Mans Classic was, and a lovely lady called Charlotte in the Le Mans Classic press office sorted me out a pass so that I could film all of this. And blimey, was it worth the 30 minutes of faffing round trying to explain what on earth I did for a living, because this was just wonderful, and so many people, funnily enough, were actually from England. So I saw Heritage Skills Academy team, I saw people from Bicester, I saw people that I knew from all walks of life in England that were working on these cars, and it made me feel really proud to be British, because I thought, oh, I love the fact that our homegrown talent are out here on the circuit doing their thing and making us all really proud. We are quite a talented bunch.
Cet arrêt pour la sécurité, bravo à Yves Semama, mais effectué en effet avant le fameux quart d'heure de l'arrêt de neutralisation réglementaire. À partir de là, il aurait fallu que la toge s'arrête une deuxième fois, mais ce n'est pas ce qui s'est passé. L'on suit pour son dernier passage en virage la chevron de Douglas Whitford et de Trevor Reeves, l'association britannique. Sympa la couleur orange de cette chevron B31, saluée elle aussi par le drapeau à damier.
Weather was something which on the first day, on the Friday, was absolutely spot on. You could have set your watch by it. But by this point in the weekend, so late on Saturday afternoon, well, it all started to become a bit British, as in 1 minute you need a sun hat and the next you're going to need a rain hood. Or if you're a normal person, you might have an umbrella. But I swear by my little rain hoods, it means you keep both hands free. Anyway, we started looking back round the cars again, and with a little bit more urgency, because we realised that anything we didn't get today, we probably weren't going to get good footage of on Sunday, because as the weekend progressed and the day progressed, the weather forecast got worse and worse, and it said that we were going to be getting inches of rain on the Sunday. And I just thought, none of this is going to be worth filming on Sunday, because everyone's just going to be wet and miserable in terms of all the car displays. So I thought, right, let's cram them all in. Now, do I think I saw them all? Absolutely not, no. Because as I said earlier, there were 9,000 cars. How was I going to see them all? I didn't get down to Porsche Curves. There are a few other places that I really would have liked to have seen. However, what I can say is I feel like I got good value for money in terms of what the face price on the tickets was. I think that I used my time really well. We didn't stop walking all weekend. On average, we did over 25,000 steps a day, looking at all the cars, exploring everywhere, dancing, and we barely slept for the entire weekend. So I think we did really well. And bear in mind that I didn't just see what I show you on the camera. I saw loads of other stuff as well. And one of the things that I really wanted to see was this classic campsite, because James Walsh had sent me some pictures and he said, this has got you written all over it. You've got to go and see it. And I couldn't find it because, of course, there's so many areas. How on earth do you find it? So I need to say a massive thank you, because I bumped into 2 subscribers and they were talking to me and I said, I'm trying to find this area. Do you know where it is? And by this point, we'd spotted all these cars and they said, oh yeah, we know exactly where that is. And they actually pretty much guided me, a person who's absolutely hopeless for finding their way anywhere at all in life, to where this bit was. So I'm going to show you the rest of the cars and then I'm going to show you the classic campsite. And oh my goodness, the classic campsite was absolutely everything that you could hope for. But also, I'll tell you something else that really surprised me, that I didn't really have an appreciation for until I came to Le Mans Classic, is just how much French people love a Triumph. Oh my goodness, I saw so many of them. Triumphs, like the little sports cars, so your TR series, the stags, I saw loads of stags, and also MGBs. Oh my goodness, I swear there were more MGBs here than anywhere else. Oh, and by the way, that Messerschmitt was driving on the first night, and I was so entranced by the fact that I'd never seen a Messerschmitt driving that I forgot to film it. I also saw this thing, which was a Matador, and this was very different because I'd never seen one of these before, and I'd really like to know if you've seen one before, because I still don't fully understand what on earth was going on with it, but I absolutely loved it. And I looked at it and thought I could absolutely go camping in one of those. It looks brilliant. But anyway, I thought I'd just pan round and show you. But again, when you go looking at all the cars, and if you are coming and you're putting it on your list of things to do, bring a sensible pair of shoes and get down and look at all of these. Now, without further delay, I'm going to show you my favourite thing that I saw all weekend. It's the retro camping area. Oh, and the only Ford Anglia as well. I thought there were going to be more Fords. There weren't very many. In fact, I would say that I probably saw more Triumphs than I did Fords, which actually really surprised me. I thought the interest in Ford would be a lot higher. Now this got my spidey senses absolutely tingling. This was the best thing by miles for me at Le Mans Classic. And I know that someone's going to say to me, Steph, it's not racing. Okay, it may not be racing, but look at it. Isn't it absolutely wonderful? And the thing is that I speak from experience. Keeping a canvas tent going from the 1970s is not as easy as you might think, because if you think looking after a classic car's hard, when you have a canvas tent, if you've used it in the wet, when you've used it, you then have the soul destroying experience of taking it home, trying to peg it out in your garden to dry, so you've got to hope that you're going to have some dry weather, and then you've got to repack it all back down. But it's like some sort of Pandora's box with these 70s tents, is they never go back into the bag properly. I can't get mine back into the bag properly. Also, it's a really massive thing to carry everywhere, because mine's a Trigano. And one of my biggest regrets actually is I saw another Trigano which was the size down from mine, and I meant to film it. I saw it on one of the campsites as I was walking in, and I was just so excited to get in every day that I thought, oh, it'll be there on the last day, I'll film it. But because the weather had been so bad, they obviously fear having their canvas tent up in the rain like I do, and they'd taken it down and it was gone, and I was absolutely gutted beyond belief. But anyway, coming back to this setup, apparently this is here every year. So if you're watching this video and thinking, oh, I would have really liked to have seen that, Sarah Crabtree told me that she has seen it in previous years, because I did bump into Sarah and her lovely daughter and her friend, but unfortunately I didn't get any video footage of asking them what we thought. But I will say that we were all absolutely frazzled, so it's probably no wonder. Now, what I really loved about this campsite is that all the small bits and pieces were period correct. People had gone to enormous effort, and this is by no mean feat, because I have a lot of this stuff myself, being a hoarder and a vintage collector of many, many years, and I cannot begin to express to you the fact that it is certainly not as easy as it used to be to get all these various bits and pieces. And I loved seeing all the stuff out, all the bits and pieces that people had laid out, and you again were welcomed into people's caravans that they were staying in. So really they were welcoming you into their homes to have a look at how they'd laid everything out. And people were sleeping in vintage sleeping bags, there were vintage pillowcases, people were eating off vintage crockery. Everything was absolutely bob on. And so whoever put this together, bravo, because I don't think it could have been perfected any more than it was. Now anyway, back to the nightlife. A lot of people don't realise that Le Mans Classic does not end. So it just goes through the night and people party, party, party. Now I filmed this at 3 in the morning. Look how busy it is for 3 in the morning, for goodness sakes. And people were still dancing, and outside there was a thunderstorm, and people were just kind of like, well, okay, there's a thunderstorm outside. I'm not giving up. I'm just going to keep going. And everyone was packed really tightly in. However, they did close the racing down for a bit. So we came home, we went to sleep for a few hours, we got up, and then we headed into the canteen. Now breakfast was free with all the gold accommodation that we were in, so we made the most of it and then headed back to the track. Now you can see that it's an immediate shift in how it all looked. But how did it sound? Well, have a listen. However, despite all the rain, it didn't dampen anyone's spirits. Now, the next place we went off to watch the racing wasn't back in the press room. We were going to go off to the Dunlop Bridge. Now, I must say an enormous thank you to viewer Paul. He sent me a special pass which would get me into an area to get a really good viewing spot at Dunlop Bridge, because as you can see here, the general area was a little bit crowded by this point.
Tout seul. Et passage également de la Jaguar de Andy Wallace avec sa type D.
The weekend then ended on a high because the weather turned itself around, and for the very last race we finally had a bit of sunshine, which was definitely needed because all our clothes were absolutely drenched. But as you can see here, the mood was buoyant. So let's watch that race together. And with the last race finish, that is us done at Le Mans Classic 2025. Goodness me, it has been the most amazing experience of my adult life. I've been on amazing holidays, I've been to all sorts of different places, but Le Mans Classic has topped all of it, and it is so cheap to come. It's less than £150 for 4 days of pure entertainment, excitement, nothing stops, nobody sleeps, and it is just one of those things that you need to do before you die. Add it to your bucket list. This has been brilliant. Again, as I've said all the way through the video, thank you very much to Motorsport Travel Destinations for bringing us here. Thank you to everyone that's organised Le Mans Classic, from the staff to the people that have cleaned up, just absolutely everyone that's brought a car as well, put together all the displays. It is unbelievable. Never been to anything this good before. Doubt I'll find anything to top it. And my only complaint was there were not really any vegetarian food options, but hey, that's what a packed lunch is for. Now tell me what you think in the comment section below. Sorry that you've not had me popping up all the way through the weekend. I just wanted to film everything as quickly as I could and get it together, and hopefully I've given you the spirit of Le Mans Classic. Right, that's it from me now. We've got a mammoth drive back to Huddersfield, but from me here and to you at home, take care and drive safely.
Tell me I'm the only one that you love. Life could be a dream, sweetheart. Hello again. She boom and up in the middle again.
And only ding dong along, boom ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo the life.
Oh, life could be a dream. Life could be a dream, sweetheart. Life could be a dream. If only all my precious men would come true. If you would let me spend my whole life loving you. Life could be a dream, sweetheart. She boom, she boom. She boom, she boom. She boom, sweetheart.